Hello, welcome to episode 8 of the Irish Tennis Updates podcast. My name is Adam and I'm your host. Hope everyone's staying well at the moment, managing to get some exercise in, staying safe. This episode I chat to Mark Finnegan. Mark has a fantastic story in tennis, from junior player with lots of success in Ireland to US college player to US college coach, and now he's come back to Ireland and is helping send more players on scholarships to the States. We talk about all of this, as well as Mark's view on tennis in Ireland at the moment, and much more. Now let's get into it. Hope you enjoy. Right, so Mark, if you could have one superpower, what would you choose and why?
I'd say it's to be able to flip a switch of knowing when you can hear somebody else's thoughts, on and off.
Oh yeah.
If I could hear what some of the student athletes and the players are thinking, and even sometimes my own kids and my wife, from time to time, I could really actually then know how to be able to respond the right way and make sure that I gave them the right information to help them out. So I'd say that if I had to name one, that would be a really, really good one I'd like to have.
Yeah, because it's probably not something you'd want 24/7, but it's good to have on and off.
Certainly not. And so sometimes I'm always wondering what's going on through the player's head and what's going on in there. But sometimes there's absolutely nothing going on in there. It's just all going on in my head.
So we'll get into tennis. I want to start with what you're doing at the moment. Your all sports recruitment. So would you mind just giving, I guess, the elevator pitch, so just a quick summary of what it is you are doing at the moment?
Yeah, so I came back to Ireland after living in America for 16 years and ultimately had all of this knowledge and way of how people are doing things in America, but also around the rest of the world, because I had so many different players from different countries and I always picked their brains of what was good and what was not good in their countries. So I just figured I had all this information and I felt like I was an expert in the process. I'd gone through it myself. I actually used a recruiting agency myself when I actually transferred universities because it wasn't the right fit for me, the first university. So I felt like this would be a great way to help Irish athletes. And I also thought too as well, like I really wanted to get into all sports. There's a lot of recruitment agencies out there that just specialize in one sport, but they're ultimately probably trying to sell sometimes between 50 to 100 players a year. And I don't think that's possible really to be able to do that. So I knew in Ireland, because we're so small, if I could focus on like 5 to 10 tennis players a year, 5 to 10 golfers, then I could really, really give them the right fit of university and help them along the process of identifying what's right for them, So that's what I do, is I try to look for fits. And then I also make sure that before you get there is you are able to increase the value of who you are as a student athlete. The great thing about America is they value more than just winning college tennis matches. They value the overall person and what you bring as an individual. So I hope to maximize that out before they go and let people be more aware of all these other strengths that they have outside of tennis so that they can use those to their advantage. And then, ultimately what I'm hoping is when they come back then from their experience in America, then I'm able to be that bridge between America and Ireland. So when I came back from America, there was nobody here to help me. Nobody understood the process. Nobody understood what I'd gone through in my 4 or 5 years and the amount of experience that I had. And so if I'm able to be a supportive figure for that player coming back, help them job hunt too as well, then ultimately I can sell them to Irish jobs and Irish businesses, and hopefully get them the right fit of work too as well. Yeah.
So how recently is it that you came back and set this up?
So we're just coming up on about 2 years here, about a year and a half. So I guess it would have been about this time last year, 2 years ago, that I decided to relocate back to Ireland and raise my family. So
it's all sports, but obviously your main expertise is in tennis. So how, like, what kind of percentage of your clients are tennis, and how much would be elsewhere?
Yeah, so like obviously with any business, you make sure you maximize your strengths to begin with. So that I already had my network from tennis, and I just had all the people from my whole life, So really, my first year and a half was all about helping tennis players, and then ultimately, hopefully, using that experience with them to then allow me to go into other sports. So I've done one golfer, and it's been a huge success, and we turned around a situation for that golfer where academically they weren't in good standing to go off to America, and we got that sorted, and now they're over there. But it's definitely been challenging to get into these other sports, because ultimately you have to create all the connections in those sports, and then obviously create the trust that they see that there's a value of someone like myself for them.
Yeah. So how many students are you helping this year? Like how big?
So, well, in total, we've helped over 20 players. So some of them are in university right now. Some are going off in fall 2020, and some are going in 2021. So, but right now at the moment, I think there's 5 or 6 that are currently in universities.
Okay.
So I always say to people is like, if you want to maximize the process, you've got to start doing this at the beginning of your 4th year, because there's so many things that you can do in 4th year that can come back to help you at a later stage, because the 6th year is so brutal in Ireland and it's so tough, but the 4th year is a gift. Yeah. And if you can maximize out your 4th year, there's so many things you can get ahead of the game on.
Yeah. So how do you hope to grow your all sports recruitment into the future? What are your plans going forward for that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the goal is, I've been working really hard the last 6 months, is just trying to find the right people to connect with in those other sports. And then for them to obviously be able to work with them to make sure that they're experts on that sporting side, but I'm ultimately the expert of how you can maximize the process of going to America and how to do the process the right way, where it's not where you don't run into any barriers and obstacles. So that's hopefully the goal in the next 6 months. Obviously, COVID's kind of put things a little bit on hold here, and everything's kind of changing a little bit with the landscape. But hopefully in the next 6 months, I've got those relationships established in those other sports where people see the value of using someone like myself.
So at the moment, is it just you that's working for all sports, or do you have other people like that are employed?
No, so it's just me. Yeah, it's a one-man ship now. It's very fortunate. My sister, who runs a very successful company called Coil Consulting, and she has contracts with Facebook and Google, and she places recruiters in those jobs. She helped support me my first year as helping me grow the business, and also making sure she helped give me guidance on how to be a recruiter. And but in the last 9 months, we decided that I'd have my 2 feet on my ground, and I was going to go out and do it on my own now. So, but she still helps me, and I still lean on her a lot for her guidance.
Yeah. So you mentioned there about, obviously, COVID-19 has had an impact recently. How big an impact has that had on I guess your day-to-day life, and also the professional side of it in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, on a personal note, I've got 5 and a 7-year-old, so it's actually been a lot of fun. I've gotten to do everything with my kids, and funny enough, is right before this happened, I bought an inflatable hot tub, so we've been using that as a swimming pool for the kids. And the lovely weather the last 3 days, they've been splashing around. So this is time that we're going to look back in years and years to come, and really know that we put the things that are most valuable first. But obviously, from a business standpoint, from a standpoint of moving things forward, there's definitely COVID has put a lot of obstacles and challenges in the way of recruitment, because of how many different variables are now in play for what might or what mightn't happen.
So talk me through just what the situation is like for college in the States at the moment because of the current situation.
Yeah, so basically everything was, a couple of weeks ago was put on hold, and the spring sports, which is tennis, is included in golf and track and field and baseball. There's spring's probably the busiest time for NCAA sports. They put everything on hold. So then what they did was they gave everybody that whole semester back, or year of eligibility back, because in college in America you can only compete 4 years, and you've got usually 5 years to play 4 years. So now everybody has this extra year of eligibility, which ultimately the funding has really decreased because what's called the NCAA basketball tournament, which is a major revenue driver. $600 million they typically make from that tournament that goes over a couple of weeks. So that money then gets distributed to the schools. Now, for the bigger schools, they don't rely on that as much, but the smaller schools, they do, because it's quite a big chunk of change for them. So that's gone down to 275 million, I believe. And so that's obviously going to impact programs. But the biggest one is college football. For these bigger universities, college football can sometimes generate, between 40 and 60 million dollars over the course of the semester. So, and this is why these other sports like tennis and golf and track and field and soccer's can exist, because of the amount of revenue that the college football brings in.
Yeah.
So, they don't know yet if there's going to be a college football season. Obviously, we're fingers crossed that there is. And I think, this NCAA system's been around for years. It's been around for generations. So I think they're going to be really creative in how they keep everything going and they don't lose a beat. But obviously there's going to be some small sacrifices that are made along the way,
What's the hardest thing about the job for you? All sports.
I think the hardest part is, as I always keep saying to people, it's going off on a scholarship. It's about getting the right fit of personality of a team and a coach with the player. And I think, for many, many years, people have focused on the scholarship side, which is absolutely really important.
Yeah.
But, ultimately it's the fit of personality of coach, the player, and culture of the team that is important, because that will then drive a positive experience. And so I think the most difficult part for me is making sure on both sides, from the coach's side and the player's side, that they feel good about the fits. Because as a previous college coach, I got the right fits a majority of the time, but I got some wrong fits. And the wrong fit of personality of player and coach, both players don't, both sides don't feel like they get everything out of the experience that they want. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day is both sides always want that, but you have to have the right personalities to make sure that there's a higher chance of that happening. So I'd say that's probably the most challenging part.
Yeah, and then on the other side, what's your best memory or the best moment you've had since you started?
Yeah, I shared this one with James. I feel like I should do a different one, but it's hard to argue. There's these two girls called the twins, Lola and Sol, and I'm sure everybody knows them at this stage, but we're short, try to make it as short as I can, but they helped me clean up my very first presentation I did. I was so nervous, and Noahide and ITF and myself, and they stayed behind afterwards. They helped me clean up. They took 2 buses to get there. They weren't even playing that ITF. They didn't even play the tournament. They didn't think they were good enough to play it. And ultimately, 6 months, I evaluated them and I told them to come back in 6 months and they should do this. And they did everything and more. And then every step of the journey, every challenge, every obstacle they've had, they've literally they've done it and accomplished it and defeated that obstacle and challenge. And they've been just amazing listeners, and we've gotten the right fit for them as a college coach, and they've now gotten 100% scholarship offers. Okay. And they're just and that was their goal and their dream. And I know those girls, they're going to use it to their advantage. I think that there's a chance they'll end up being Fed Cup players because they're just going to keep getting better. Yeah. And they're just so thankful and they're so grateful and appreciative, and they've done so much with so little. And it all sometimes brings tears to my eyes because they ended up winning the Irish junior doubles championship with Fitz this year, and just the joy that they got from that is just it's just really cool. So it's a cool story.
Yeah. Are they in first year now, or are they going into college next year? What stage?
They're going in fall 2020. So as long as everything behaves itself with the COVID, and look, once again, every they've nonstop obstacles and challenges, and this is just another one.
Yeah.
And look, and I'd say if anybody was to ask, okay, what does Mark do and how does Mark help me, is I find a way to get rid of obstacles and challenges. I know how to get around the obstacles and challenges and then get what you want to be able to get out of what you want out of the experience, and which can be so different from person to person. So, they've had plenty, and we'll just keep moving forward, and we'll get them over there eventually. If it's fall or it's January 2021, it's going to happen. So.
Yeah. So that's about it in terms of what I wanted to bring up. Is there anything else you want to mention before we leave it there?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, so I want to go back, I guess, to earlier on in your kind of your tennis life, how you got to this point. So how did you get into tennis in the first place?
Yeah, so back in the day when I played, which I'm 37, so there was only one place that would actually allow me to play sport as a club, and that was the tennis club. So I tried to get into the GA, I tried to get into into soccer clubs, but I was six, I think it was five or six, and my mom and dad wanted me to get involved in the sport. So there was actually a lady in NACE tennis club called Mary Rose Lyons, which is a legend around here, and she said, right, if you take 10 tennis lessons from me on my own private tennis court, and you can prove that you're good enough, we'll let you join the club. Okay. So I passed the test and I ultimately joined the tennis club when I was 5, I think, or 6, I think, years old. And then that was a much simpler time back then. My mom and dad would just throw me down there during the summers, and I would just, I'd have 50 pence and you'd enter a tournament for 50 pence. And there was a sweet shop there that they'd give me 50p to go spend in the sweet shop. And literally that's all I did for probably my first 5 years of my life was just hang around the tennis club and hit against walls and everything like that.
So how did tennis then develop for you kind of through your teenage years and heading, I guess, towards college time? So you kept playing to a good level, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I won fifths under 12s, 16s, and I won doubles and mixed, I think under, I can't even remember this stage, but I think 18s and 14s.
Okay,
but yeah, so and I represented Ireland at the Junior Olympics and loads of great things in my junior career. But funny enough is I look back at my junior career and I have regrets that I didn't enjoy it more, and I didn't enjoy the process. I was obsessed with winning, and I literally didn't lose a match, I think, until I was 13 or 14 in my own age group. So and you know what, and I always tell the story to everybody, but I was supposed to get a dog when I was 13 or 14, and I was playing in Shankill Junior Open, and my mom and I was in the final, and I lost the final. It was the very first match I ever lost in my life, and I remember calling a really bad line call on match point, and my mom seeing it, and basically I argued, and I think I even cried, and I was devastated. This was the first time I'd ever lost my own age group, and they told me that I wasn't allowed to have a dog, and you know what, that was the best lesson I ever learned, because I ultimately actually took a bit of a break off tennis then and played a little bit of rugby, and then ever since that moment of playing the rugby, I then realized how much I missed my tennis, and I've been involved in tennis ever since. And then obviously went off on the scholarship like most Irish players when I was 18 to the States, and then briefly came back to Ireland for a small time, but then mostly spent my time until recently in America.
I see. So how was that process for you actually going to college? Obviously that's kind of what you're specializing in now, but how was that for you at the time of choosing your college and finding the right one and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and look, and it was a simpler time with recruitment back then. Again, I mean, I remember putting the VHS tape together and turning it then into an American tape, and then sending it over to the coach, and then the coach, if he liked it or didn't like it, would send it back to me, and I'd send it to the next coach, right?
Yeah.
So, but I look back and it was very fun. All the players that were over there in America at the time were helping all of us incoming players, so they provide a little bit of guidance. And what's funny is there's one legendary coach in college tennis. He was actually the head of the USTA there for a while, but went back to college tennis. Brian Boland. Brian actually, funny enough, was just breaking out at a big time university called University of Virginia, and I wrote to University of Virginia and a handwritten note, and he said, look, in a nice way, like, you're not good enough, like, but he said, here are 3 universities that I think that your standard would be a really great level for. And one of those 3 universities ended up being the university I went to. But I remember talking to the coach for like 5 minutes on the phone, and then saying, right, he's got the scholarship for me. It's on my budget. I had a small budget, didn't have a lot. So I told Brian about that years and years when I got back into college coaching as a coach myself. I said how much that decision that he had done for me had come back for me to do that to many other people. Like, and I'd done the same thing for years and years of my coaching. And somebody would write to me, and they wouldn't be quite at the level. I'd always send on a couple of schools I thought that would be a good level for them. Yeah. So, yeah.
So how were your playing days in college then? How did that go for you?
Yeah, so I was unfortunate a little bit, I guess. I was a little bit injury prone, and so had a great freshman year. I was actually freshman of the year of my conference, which was a really good achievement. And ultimately, after that, I went, I think, 23-4 at the number 3 position, which was a really, really good freshman year. Sophomore year, they moved me up to number 1 in the lineup. I was not good enough to be number 1 in the lineup, and I was playing against a lot of players that were just a little bit better than me. If everybody knows who I am, I'm 5'5". I'm built not to be a tennis player. Yeah. So, I tried my best, but I lost a lot at my second year. Didn't manage my relationship with my coach, didn't have that fond relationship. We weren't the right fit. So then I decided to transferred to an amazing university called Memphis, which I ended up coaching then at. The coach there was a guy that, has been a very big impact on a lot of people. His name is Paul Goebel, and he kind of inspired me to want to be a college coach. But I tore my rotator cuff literally like 1 month into it. And I played on a torn rotator cuff for probably 3 months. So then, by the time I recovered my senior year, I think I was playing 5 and 6 in lineup. I had a good winning record, and doubles I was really good at. I've always been really good at doubles. Yeah. And so that was kind of a little bit easier to get back on track with doubles because there's obviously a little bit less variables. But so overall, I would say I for my standard, what I expected to get out of myself, I had a disappointing college career, but that kind of motivated me to want to do better as a coach. I kind of started off as a coach, wanted to prove that I could do it, and I could prove people wrong a little bit, which is probably not the right mindset to have, but it also drove me those first few years to work relentlessly hard at trying to become the best version of myself as a coach.
Yeah, so you finished up your playing time in college, and then was it pretty much straight away you went back into coaching, or how did that transition take place into coaching?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough, right, the first year you get what's called a OPT, which allows you to work in America after you graduate for 1 year.
Okay.
Funny enough, is I was the assistant coach for the women's tennis team at Memphis, which that year they had a rough year. I think they won 1 match and lost 20 or something. Okay. So it wasn't a great introductory to college coaching. But funny enough, is I have a good story because Hurricane Katrina came through New Orleans, and my roommate in college, Dad, bought a roofing company and had told me that I could try to go down there and help learn the business. And I wanted to stay in America a little bit long term. So I ended up actually, about a couple of weeks before the end of the college season, I took this job opportunity to go down to New Orleans. And so I worked and learned the business of working for a roofing company. But that company actually didn't work out in the end because none of the insurance payments were coming through on the roofs. So then my year ran out, and I came back to Ireland and worked actually for a company back here for about 6 or 7 months. Wasn't very happy back here. Felt like I'd kind of grown apart from Ireland, didn't have my same friendships, lived at home. It was a bit of a grind. But then I got this opportunity to work down on a kind of a paradise island called Key Biscayne at a Ritz-Carlton hotel, which was right next to the Sony Ericsson Open. Okay. So I worked for a company called Cliff Drysdale Tennis. And funny enough, now I actually help people find jobs to work in Cliff Drysdale Tennis.
It's come full circle.
Yeah, it's come full circle. So I worked there, and I actually learned a lot about the management side of running large large clubs where they had 11 pros, 10 courts, 40 hours to 50 hours a week on court, hundreds of people coming in for clinics right before the Sony Ericsson Open was taking place. Serena Williams would be down there. All the top players would stay in that hotel during the tournament. So it was a kind of a cool experience. But then I got the opportunity right after about a year into that, I got married, and we had work permission then in America to my wife from Alabama. And then that Memphis job opened up for college coaching. And I wanted to get back to Memphis so bad and become a college tennis coach, so.
You did. So from your time coaching in the States, what's your highlights?
Yeah, there was a lot. I'd say probably we made the Sweet 16 at Memphis, which for anyone who knows college athletics, Sweet 16 is a big, big thing. And, some of the guys on that team, Joe Salisbury just won Australian Open doubles, Grand Slam.
Yeah.
So he was on that team. And Joe was a very open-minded tennis player, so he was a lot of fun to coach. But then there was an Irish guy, David O'Hare, who you've had on. But that was kind of like the penultimate end to like a journey of where when we started coaching at Memphis, when I started coaching Memphis, the men's tennis team, we were about 140, 150 in the nation. And that year we were obviously one of the top 16 teams. And so I think that was probably one of the best memories of the funny enough is the last match, the end of it, just kind of like looking back and saying, wow, we accomplished so much. And it was an accumulation of like probably 4 years of hard work that went into that.
Yeah.
And then probably the second thing was there's another guy who interviewed Julian. Julian was a part of a team where, at North Florida, where North Florida had fallen short of winning their conference championship for many, many, many years. They'd lost in the final. And we had a bit of an adversity in that year of going forward to win that conference championship, but we ended up getting over the hump and winning the conference. And there's guys like Jack Findle Hawkins, who just won the Irish Senior Open last summer. He was on that team, and I'm actually doing a Zoom call with that team on Monday just to kind of talk about and reminisce on that season. So those are two highlights, but I think you look back and there's college tennis, college athletics, there's so many highs and lows. There's lots of lows and lots of tough days too as well at the office. Yeah. But there's definitely a lot of memories that I haven't mentioned there that I could easily make a top 10 list. So.
Yeah. I'm interested in talking for a moment about Joe Salisbury, who obviously now has gone on to have some big success. I think he's up to number 4 in the world or something now. So was at the time, could you tell there was something a bit different about him? Obviously, he's gone on to be slightly more successful than the others on the team. Would you have been able to predict that at the time?
I don't think you can predict them winning the Grand Slam championship, and I've actually chatted him about that, and he said, yeah, I'm not even sure if I could have predicted that. But I was a small little portion, and hopefully of helping him in the process of helping to get better. But I think those sort of players like Joe, they no matter who was their coach, no matter who they were with, they would always found a way to become the best version of themselves. Joe, in my opinion, had a couple of things. He was obsessed about tennis. He loved it. And was probably as a junior was hampered by a couple of things that stopped him from becoming the best version of himself. And so he was really fresh coming into college because he hadn't done as much as maybe some of the other players. He also had an incredible growth mindset. He was at the toughest times, you could always come on court with him or in practice when he wasn't feeling good. And he'd always be willing to listen and hear what you had to say. And then he would decide if that information was going to help him become the best version of himself. And I think then in big time and big pressure moment situations, I think the best of him always used to come out. And he was always willing to take chances. And so, for example, is something so simple was I remember, on break points in doubles, we'd always say his backhand was sometimes his liability on the return, especially. So people would always try to kick up high on his backhand on a break point. So we already knew that was going to happen. So we basically say, look, every break point you go line with the backhand or run around to rip the forehand. And the amount of times he'd actually shank the backhand line over the guy's head to break was actually, it was quite a lot. And we'd always laugh about it on the sideline because, it was just that willingness to just take a chance and just not worry about the outcome and just try to control what you can control. So I think those are probably the three things: loving tennis, having a very growth mindset, of open-mindedness, and then obviously just being willing to take chances in the big moments.
That's really interesting, yeah. So a couple of things I want to mention more about college tennis is I know that in college they play no lets. So what's your thoughts on that rule? And are there any other rules that they have there that they don't have on the main tour?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. So the no let I really liked because, I think with college athletics, we were always trying to make sure that we made it enticing for people to want to stay around from start to finish. And, you know, and not that a let court's going to make a match last ridiculously long, but it stops the stop, like it keeps it going a little bit more. So I don't think it affected the outcome of a match enough. So I actually liked it. Personally, I actually loved the Noahide. College tennis was the first ones to do it. I love it because I think it's a fantastic development tool. I think the Noahide makes sure that every player values every point of played in the game. And so every point's a big point. So when you have every point being a big point, it takes 100% focus and attention to every detail on every point. So you have to have a plan. And I think you can manage that, and you can, as a player, to your advantage. And what I always say to guys that I coached, and I continue to say to this time, is like, you know, you should know your strengths. You should know when you walk up to hit a serve on that no-ad point of 9 times out of 10, what's the best outcome for me if I do this? Or on the return side, what's the best way for me to control what I can control off the return and not worry about what the other player is doing? And I think over the course of a year, if you play no-ad points the same way, I think you're going to come out ahead on the no-ad. And I think it's great because it's just so much pressure. It is, and you know, people don't like pressure sometimes, but ultimately the best people love pressure, and they love realizing that they're going to fail plenty of times and they're going to succeed plenty of times. It's just, can you remember the success more than you can remember the times you failed? And I think that's why people that have maybe a fixed mindset, they kind of focus a little bit too much on the times they fail rather than focusing more time on the time that they've succeeded at doing it, you know? So.
Yeah. And the no-ad is obviously something they use now on the doubles tour. And like, I always enjoy watching the matches with you know, like it's all, because it's, you know, entire matches can turn on that 1 point, you know, if it's 4-all or something, and, you know, in a set, the whole set can turn on that. And I find that really, you know, it is exciting to you know, to watch those points. It does add a lot to the game.
It does. Momentum. It's huge. Momentum is, and I'm a big believer in momentum management. And a lot of my mentors as coaches were, you know, you talk about Owen Casey. I mean, this guy's a legend when it comes to tactics. In the world of coaching, Owen Casey is about as good as it gets. You know, I was talking to James Colloon on his podcast about a guy called Chuck Creasy. I mean, these guys understand not just momentum in tennis, but momentum in life and in other sports. So definitely, that's a huge part of it, and I think it makes it more exciting for the viewer. And look, there's so many debates on this. Is tennis dying out, or is it becoming, you know, is it prospering? And, you know, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but I do think that people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, and they want to see peaks and valleys of entertainment. And it's such a hard one because there's so much great tradition in tennis and so many values that you get from tennis. But you have to also look at it and say that, you know, the sport doesn't exist without people viewing it, right? So that's obviously a tricky one. So.
Yeah, so another thing that they have obviously in the States that you wouldn't see on the regular tour is, you know, it's that aspect of playing for a team as well as playing for yourself. So it's all about the team. So how, like, what do you see as the big advantages of that to a player's development when they're over in the US?
Oh, like, team for me, I think it saved my love of tennis. And, you know, I think I was always very selfish and self-centered as a tennis player, which makes a great tennis player sometimes too, right? So it's tricky. But for me, I just loved when I became a part of a team because it no longer became about myself. And it was about having a transcendent cause towards what was best for the overall team. And I think that's why I wanted to become a college coach, because I think I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And when I came back to Ireland, I've always loved league, DLTC league, and I think it's a massive positive for Irish tennis. And, you know, and I'm lucky to be part of NACE Tennis Club, which has great leadership and great people in place there to kind of foster that part of league tennis and being part of a team. And that's really filled a massive void that I was worried about before I came back was, wow, I'm not going to have my university community anymore and my university team that I felt like was my, you know, part of my identity, right? And so now I feel like that it's been very enjoyable to be a part of the overall NACE team. Does that make sense? But and this might sound a bit cheesy, but I feel like I genuinely am like on Team Ireland. Like I want more Irish tennis players staying with tennis. I want them to still love the games of tennis and keep going, because there's so many things you can get back from the sport, you know, and I've gotten back from the sport.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to go on now to kind of going back to Ireland. We've been obviously talking about the States for a little bit, but going back to Ireland. So I know you obviously do work in NACE. So what exactly is your role in NACE? How does that kind of fit in with, you know, your all sports recruitment?
Yeah, and I really don't have a role. Like I'm not, you know, I'm very fortunate. NACE is a very, very laid back club. So my role, if any, is just being a mentor to some of the junior tennis players. And we created something called Next Gen NACE, which ultimately was just something for me to help get the player to understand the value of team and to help prepare them, because a lot of the players that I was helping when I first started the business were actually involved with NACE Tennis Club.
Okay.
So it was really just, you know, a tool I used for them to help prepare them better for America. And then it kind of grew a little bit more where, you know, people started to want to become a part of the process of being part of that team. So now, you know, it's very much a group of players that our number one goal is to help each other. So when you're at the junior tennis tournaments, are you looking and supporting your teammates? Are you, you know, if they need a knock-up before their match, are you going to be able to give them a knock-up before their match, right? Even, for example, we just did a Zoom call a couple of days ago with all those next-gen NACE players, and we were just talking about things that you were grateful for, like, and what are you appreciative for right now at the moment? And what did you do in the back garden that you think that's helped you prepare you for when we come out of this? So it's just really getting everybody together to help each other and be better versions of themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I always tell them, I said, like, Irish people and Irish tennis players, they're not the competition. The world is your competition.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're all competing for winning an Irish national championship at Fitz, but there's so much more out there than just that. And don't just focus on that, you know, being the penultimate end to your tennis career, you know? So hope that makes sense.
So sticking then with tennis in Ireland, obviously a big part of tennis in Ireland for a lot of people, probably most people listening, would be the DLTC and all the leagues, the junior leagues, senior leagues. So I'm just interested in what's your opinion about the DLTC and its potential, and also just the role it does play.
Oh, it's amazing, and I feel so lucky. And I actually talk to other players around the world, former players, and the only way they can really, apart from the Germans, which they have a good league system there, most countries, it's very hard after you finish juniors to actually find somewhere to play competitive tennis but still be enjoyable. And we're so lucky to have it, and it's and the way it's set up too as well, of doubles and singles, and it varies from season to season. It's just fantastic. We're just so lucky. I think it's the healthiest thing about Irish tennis. I think it's I think the league, I would love if the LTC can even keep growing it more and more, but it's also, they have such a well-oiled machine that they're not willing to change it, which is totally understandable too as well. And I'm obviously a big person of growing things and wanting things to get better and better. So, you know, there's definitely some fantastic ideas that you could keep, you know, expanding on it. But even if it stayed the same way for the next 50 years, it'd be still something that we're so lucky to have.
You mentioned there changes. What changes? Do you have any examples of those changes that could be made maybe to advance this?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a technology standpoint, they could definitely use some more creative ways to make it more accessible, and I think everybody wouldn't be something. I think everyone would probably agree with that. But once again, you can't criticize. They've got something that works, right? And there's so much volunteers, and there's so many people that are doing so many great things behind the scenes that they're doing thankless jobs, you know. So it's hard to criticize that because they're doing such a good job. But I would say also, as well as, you know, I think from probably the class 2, class 3, all the way up to class 7 and 8 standard, I probably wouldn't change too much. I think it's done really well. Okay. I think there's lots of great ideas out there from the high performance side that you could add and make it a little bit more player friendly, and make it more desirable for the senior players that are even still playing competitively on the pro tour to be able to play still and want to do it. You know, this could take me hours to go into this, but I'm a massive proponent of the clubs taking ownership of their players, right? And so the Germans, have a great league structure where they're able to even give back to their players, their high performance players, to help fund them in the process of their journey, and then they're able to share the journey of professional tennis with their players, right? So even examples like my old assistant Malte Stropp, who's a German tennis player, Dustin Brown would have coached Dustin Brown in the summers when he was coaching at North Florida, and Dustin then would have been playing league for his club, and the whole club felt a part of the journey of Dustin, and when he beat Nadal at Wimbledon. I think that the clubs and the high performance side of league tennis, there could be a lot done there that could really help the Pete Botwells of the world, the Simon Carrs, the Julian Bradleys. These guys are unbelievable guys that deserve to keep going because they're true professionals. And they're not just out there just kind of going through the motions. They're doing things the right way, So
So you really do think that league is kind of a tool that can be used definitely for future growth within Ireland for tennis big time.
I feel very strongly that that's I think the way that, because look, and once again we can spend hours talking about this, but look, if somebody does well, how many people does it impact if they're not part of a club? If maybe 10 people in their circle. Okay. Yeah. And if 10 people in the circles share the success and the journey that you have, that's great. But ultimately, if you were a part of the club from the age of 13 or 14 and you've grown with your club, and the club feel that they're a part of your journey and they're supporting you at every step of the journey, right? Yeah. When it comes time to playing in Wimbledon, you'd have 1,000 people from NACE going over to Wimbledon to see you play in that first round match. And that's, look, once again, I coached Joe Salisbury, but he's had probably maybe 50 coaches along the way. Yeah. And I'm a tiny part of his journey, but I still get so much enjoyment out of seeing him do well. And because I was a little part of his journey, Yeah. And I think that's what tennis as an individual sport is sometimes it has a hard time doing. It's that if you can make it about an overall community, then more people can benefit from one person being successful, Yeah. And obviously America's a very philanthropist country. And I would say Ireland's probably not as philanthropy driven. So for many, many reasons. So it is tougher for these guys to get funding and girls to get funding to keep going. And, and I try to help as much as I can, but I'm obviously still in a situation financially where I'm still growing what I'm trying to do too as well, Yeah.
Overall, what is your opinion on the state of Irish tennis at the moment, compared maybe to the past and also just focusing on the present?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same as it's ever been. I think it's healthy. And once again, is how do you view a country being healthy at tennis? If you say from a standpoint of we do have a number of players in the world, no. But do people love the sport of tennis? Is it the amount of clubs in the country of Ireland that have active people playing tennis? Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So I personally think it's very, very healthy. I think from a performance standpoint, I don't think we're far off. I think, people like Gary Cahill, they were popping out great quality juniors players over the years, like under 14s, under 16s, under 18s, that had tremendous success. Yeah. And, have they gone on to being top 100 in the world? No, but that's so difficult and there's so many variables involved in that. So, I do think that we've produced good quality tennis players, but I also think that, we're only a small country and there's only a certain amount that we can do. But if you actually look at the overall picture, I think I would say one point of how can we keep getting it better is how do we make sure that we keep as many females involved in the sport from the age of 15 to 18? How do we not lose those girls and give them a reason of why they should stay involved in tennis? Because there's even more benefits from the female side for staying with your sport, So yeah. But overall, I honestly, and I know people will say you're just focusing on the positives, but that's what I think people should do is, not look at what we don't have, but look at what we do have. And what we do have is we have a lot of people playing tennis. But do we need more people sticking with the sport and playing in senior events at a decent level? Absolutely, yes. Do we need people leaving the country in tennis and having a positive experience so that when they come back to the country, they're speaking positively about it.
Yeah,
definitely that needs to improve a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so I'll wrap up in a few minutes. I really appreciate your time. But what's your favorite thing about tennis?
Oh, yeah. My favorite thing about tennis. I think my favorite thing about tennis is like, I still don't think I've figured it out.
Yeah.
And I love problem solving. That's probably my favorite thing to do. And tennis makes me constantly feel like I have to problem solve. And no matter what you do on a tennis court, the next day when you come back, you're always going to feel like there's something that you need to get better at. And I'd say that's
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully you haven't talked too long.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, that's probably some people say is I talk too much. So, but no, it's been an absolute pleasure. And look, to be honest, Adam, actually, if I would say one thing is, it's people like yourself. Like, I know we talked a little bit before this. You know, you've been there for the players. You've been able to publish their results. You've given them a voice by doing their podcast. And you know what? This is what it takes in Irish tennis player. People doing simple things like what you've enjoyed doing and helping these players. And there's so many people out there in Irish tennis that could do something small, but something small done for like 150, 250 people doing something small adds up to a lot, you know? So I know those guys and girls are really appreciative of what you do, and Irish tennis should be appreciative of what you do, because you know what? My journey and the journeys of many Irish tennis players have sometimes been forgotten because there's someone like yourself hasn't been out there to be able to help them. So I know I talked to all those guys and girls, and they're really appreciative of you. So hopefully they tell you that. But if they don't, they're definitely saying it to me. So.
Well, thanks very much. That's very kind. And if I can, if for me, like if I can think that what I am doing is making a difference to anybody, that's just really great for me. So thanks very much for the kind words, and then also just for joining me today. Thanks very much for giving up your time. I hope you'll keep well, and you'll get through this, and
thank you so much.
Come back stronger the other side.
And I'm glad I talked so much that you didn't have time for the quiz. That's a win for me, because I'm not good at quizzes.
No, you're all right. Don't worry about it.
All right, take care.
I'd like to thank Mark very much for his time and for coming on the show. Also, big thanks to everyone who listened to this episode. I hope you found it interesting. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode. And also, tell a friend, help spread the word if you did enjoy it. Until next time, I've been Adam. Thanks very much for listening. Stay safe.